Hello, and welcome back to another episode of VZ Garage 360. I just pulled this engine from this Mustang, and as somebody who's used to pulling F-150 engines, this one was new for me. This was actually the first time I pulled an engine from a Mustang, and I'm going to show you my experience through the entire process of removing this engine. The top and front of this were very similar to an F-150. No clutch fan on this thing, so that was awesome. But the bottom end on this thing, oh man, was it tight. So I'm going to break this up into sections. I'll put a table of contents down in the description below and show you each and every step that I took to remove this engine. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our drain pan, and we're going to stick it right underneath the car right about here. And the petcock for the radiator is going to be down here. It's going to be a 19. I'll show it to you once I actually get the radiator out. So just unscrew it. Don't pull it all the way out. You'll want to take the cap here, loosen it up, because if you don't, it'll pull a vacuum on here and it'll stop draining out the petcock. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this plastic piece here. And if they haven't been stripped out, it's just a Phillips, and you unscrew them. That comes out of there like that. Just pull up, and there you have it. Looks like there's 4 of them. Pretty common for a Ford. Alright, these out. We can take this piece off. Next, we're going to remove this. There's 3 nuts on here, and they are 11 millimeter. Okay. Looks like it's a bit crusty on there. Try to get under here and break this loose without breaking the entire thing. There it is. So now that that's loose, we're going to remove this hose here. I'm going to remove it from the radiator. And it looks like there's a clamp down here that I'm going to remove and take it off this reservoir. And remove this. Be careful when doing this, because if this thing snaps on you, it can snap on a finger and it hurts. If the hose is giving you trouble, grab a thin screwdriver. A pick will also work. But you just want to work screwdriver in here or your pick, and you want to try to break as much free from the plastic as possible. Try not to be too aggressive with it, because you don't want to put a hole in this hose. There it is, and this is removed. Since this is drained a little bit, I feel comfortable with removing this top hose here. If they do have a built-in lock in them, so if you put it on the lock, you can just slide it right off. And I was always told that if you're going to be removing these things, if you ever put them back on, you want to put a worm clamp on. And I see that's been done up here. I get it. It's to ensure that it seals properly. But, I mean, I've reused these clamps, and I think I've only ever had an issue once. So, completely up to you. Do what you think is best. Oh, sounds like we got a little bit of fluid in there. Just gotta guide it down into our drain pan. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I'm gonna have trouble there too. Alright, screwdriver. And also, before you do any work, disconnect your battery. I forgot to tell you that in the beginning. I don't have a battery in here, so that's probably why I forgot to tell you that. Okay. Go. Hose is removed. Now I'm going to disconnect this harness right here. Looks like there is a little clip on each side that has to pull apart to pull this off. So that's what I'm going to do now. There we go. And to get this out of the way completely, I'm also going to take this connector off here. Okay. Looks like it's connected down in here to the fan, which we'll have to take that off. They do make tools that have a little spade thing that goes in there, pop it off. I'm just going to use some angled needle nose. I do have those tools, but this was closer. I'm just going to bend this out of the way. Hopefully I don't forget it, right? So, now that that's good, I am going to close the petcock down here. And I'm going to move my drain pan from this side over to this side. And the things we're going to want to do over here, we want to remove our transmission lines. This is an automatic transmission, so that's why we have the transmission lines up here. And our lower radiator hose. So I'm going to go get a wrench for that. Looks like it's a 13. You do want to be careful with transmission lines in a standard wrench. If it's not a boxed end where it's got the little slit where you can stick it in there and turn, you can round off your nuts on here. So Right. Luckily, I don't see much rust here, so that broke free rather nicely. Newer vehicles, newer Fords, they have a little spring wire for these, which they make special tools for that slide in to pop out your transmission line, or you could pull out the spring, but if you do that, you risk losing that little spring. So if this is a newer Ford, be aware of that. All right, that's free. Down a little bit farther, just above this coolant line is another one. Oof. Yep. This one's causing me trouble. That's not good. Okay. I'm going to leave that on there until I get the lower radiator hose off, just because I want a better swing for this. Right, I'm going to take my pliers, go down in here, and go on this clamp here. Try not to stab myself in the eye with this thing. Oh, come on now. Clamp was loose. Oh. There we go. And see if I can't get this off of here. All right, got it off, and more coolant came out of it, so that's why we moved the drain pan. All right, let's try this transmission line again. I'm really hoping this doesn't snap off. Oof. Okay. Well, WD-40 here is sprayed on here. Not a huge fan of using WD-40, but this is an area where you really don't want to use a torch, just because this is a plastic radiator. So what I'm doing is I'm rocking it back and forth, trying to get that nut to break free from the line. And I think it's working. Yep. It's still a little bit tight on here, but that's all right. As long as it's not turning the whole line anymore, that's all I care about. All right, let's see. Oh, came off. Yes! Gotta celebrate the little things. All right, let's keep going. The two brackets that are holding this radiator in are right here,
Looks like 8mm for the bolt size. Okay. And I'll just pull them off right like that. I'm going to try to keep this all one piece. It looks like I can, meaning radiator and fan. Normally on the F-150s, you got a clutch fan right here with a big old shroud, and you have to take the clutch fan and the shroud out, but this electric fan should just be able to pop right out of here with the radiator. Perfect. Okay, now that the radiator's up, just so I don't get coolant everywhere, I'm going to tilt it this way. I'm going to drain all this coolant into our drain pan. Yummy. Nothing like rust-colored coolant, huh? Okay. Just to show you where the petcock is on this Mustang radiator, just this right here, and it drains out the bottom here. So, now that we have the radiator out, time to get this thing off. Looks like there's 2 bolts down there, and we'll get this thing out of here. So here's the bracket, here's the bolts. I will say, being on the other side of this radiator support, that is a area where rust can definitely gather quickly. These were very tight in there, so be very careful with a rusty Mustang taking these out. Because if they break on you, you're going to have to drill them out and put new threads in there to be able to put this back on. From here, I like to take the belt off. I'm just going to use a breaker bar and an adapter. This brings it down to a 3/8. There's a little hole in this tensioner for your 3/8 to go, and then you turn it. That takes all the tension off this belt, so now you can take it off. Then we'll remove that and wiggle this belt out of here. Right, you get out of there. Well, looks like I'm gonna have to move it. This was loose enough that I think I should be able to just use a small wrench. There we go. And I dropped it. That's right. As you can maybe see here, got some cracking on here. The real test. Turn it over, look for cracks. These are bad. Definitely time to replace the belt. You could probably get a little bit more life out of this thing, but the question is, do you really want to risk it? I don't. So, I'm replacing it. Now that we actually have some room in here, what I used to like to do on the F-150s is I would climb right inside here. This gives you plenty of space to actually work on this and do what you need to do. I'm going to do that. if you do this, where you actually get in here, watch out for those studs that was holding the radiator support. They'll get you. Plus, there's some lines down here. They look like brake lines, so you don't want to break those either, so try not to put too much pressure on them. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the air intake. Looks like somebody put a little bit of money into this because this is K&N. So I'm going to remove this real quick. Disconnect my mass airflow here. And looks like there's some brackets, at least on this. Yours may not be the same if it's stock, but just going to take it off here. All right. Another thing that's really helpful if you're doing an engine pull or anything on a car, take pictures of it before. That way you have a reference of how to put it back together. Like all these different wires and things, these can get confusing, especially like vacuum lines and whatever. So pictures before you take it apart definitely helps. I'm going to try to keep all of this in one piece, at least for these hoses. Going to try. Okay. Well, can't get it off one way, do it another. Couldn't get it off the valve cover here, so pulled it out that way. See if I can't get it off the idle air control. Okay. And I'll unscrew this worm clamp here. Just a little bit more. Okay. And try to pull it off of here in one piece. Remove it off this stud here. Okay, that should be enough room. Alright. Okay, and then air filter off. Well, I can see why this thing didn't have AC. Looks like the K&N air filter decided to blow this coolant line. It was rubbing up against it, and there's a giant hole here. I'll try to grab a picture of that for you so you can see it. Apparently that's something to look into if you're putting a K&N filter on, is try not to let it rub up against your AC lines. Next thing I like to do is I like to remove the alternator. Just a bunch of 10s. You can remove this whole bracket. You don't need to. And also, these you can leave on. You don't have to take that off either. You can just move it off to the side. So 2 bolts here on the intake and 2 underneath the alternator. You don't have to take these off all the way. That's a bit tight. So grab our ratchet. There we go. Just gonna loosen this up a bit. The bottom part of the alternator is is slotted. That way when you put the bolts in, you can just drop this in here and it holds it, and then you can put all your bolts on. So now that that's loose there, I'm going to take it off that stud there. And then this right here, we want to get that off as well. And there we go. Perfect. Get my tool out of the way. And we're just going to slide this right over like that. The reason I do it that way, I have run into cases where the wire on the alternator, it doesn't connect fully when you plug it back in, and you could get a battery light on your dash. So best way to do it, just leave it all connected, and when it's time to put it back on, swing the whole thing back over. So gonna remove these bolts the rest of the way. Alright, next we're going to start worrying about all this top stuff up here. So just start unplugging everything. If it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, mark your connectors to what they go to. So idle air control, throttle body sensor. This is your fuel pressure sensor right here. This is part of the EGR system back here. Delta pressure sensor, and I think this is your purge valve, if I'm not mistaken. And disconnect all your injectors and coils, ignition coils. Okay. And it looks like there's a little ground here. Pull that off, goes right to that stud there. And these vacuum lines are very fragile, so you want to be careful with those. Alright, that hose off there. That would be PCV, or at least part of your PCV. Ford likes to do green for their EGR valve. If I can get it off of here without breaking it. Come on now. Okay. There it is. And then there's a part of the vacuum line system that goes back here that feeds your instrument cluster with the heat and everything and doors. So you want to get it off here. Try not to break the butt end connector there, not electrical. This is vacuum. Okay, is that there? I'm going to try to move this out of the way. That way when I'm pulling it, the engine out of the car, I don't break this. Okay, up and out of the way. All right. Up there. And I'm going to get this out all in one piece. Once I have the vacuum lines out, I won't have to worry about breaking any of them. All right, there's your vacuum lines. And really, vacuum lines are only a 2-valve and 4-valve thing. 3 valves, they got rid of all the vacuum lines. They got rid of the EGR and went to phasers. That's what replaced these EGRs. If you're wondering what a phaser is, it controls cam timing versus the crank using oil pressure. In a future video, I will show you a phaser. I see some of the weather protectors came off of these, so I'm going to try to push these back on here. Try to get it down in there so it won't come out again. Yeah, if these aren't in here, contaminants from the road, water, everything will get to your wires and corrode them. So these are very important. Okay. The rest of the connectors off here. This is right underneath some coolant lines. Come on now. Okay. The way Ford likes to do their wiring, they kind of just go back behind and then back up again. So, and then it does go down the sides of the block, starter on that side, and oil pressure sender unit down there. So and this is something you don't see often on a 2-valve, a heated PCV. Connector off of there. Yeah, basically what you're trying to do is anything connected to this you want to remove, or disconnect it from whatever it's connected to. Okay. I'm going to remove the spring for the throttle body, just to make things easier to work with. Okay. Now that that's off, this moves fairly easily. This plastic cable going to the throttle body, it's slotted, so all you have to do is just slide it up. This cable wraps around and goes usually to an end that slides into the side. So you want your cable to come all the way around. There is a slot in here that the cable goes through. And this is what the end of it looks like here. Not sure if you can see that real well. I'll get it closer to you once I get this disconnected from this assembly. Okay, with this off, if you can see this here, it's got this round cylinder on it, and there's a slot for this cable to go through. You put it through there, goes into the slot, and then you turn it around. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Try not to scratch the paint. Granted, the paint doesn't look too good anyway. Next thing I'll do here is I will remove these two bolts holding this bracket on for these two sensors. Two 10mm bolts. And the delta pressure sensor does have two hoses going to it. That's coming from the EGR tube. And they are different sizes, so that'll be very difficult to mix them up. And as you can see, the actual hoses are different sizes as well. So there's one of two ways you can go about the EGR. You can remove the two 10mm bolts here, or you can remove the EGR tube from the EGR valve. I'm going to remove the tube because with the 5.4, I'm going to have to modify that tube. So I'm going to have to take it off anyway. So looks like on this Mustang, it is a 27mm. On the trucks, it's normally a 32. And those usually come off fairly well from what I've seen. Alright, tube is loose. I'm going to remove this elbow here. Looks like there's a bunch of 8mm on here. And I can tell this tube right here, evap tubes always start crumbling over time. So I'm gonna try to save this. I don't know how successful I'm going to be. That actually wasn't too bad. Okay, so just gonna put this in behind the wire harness, get it out of the way, and the elbow comes off. Sure do like that Mustang on there. Looks like it's been beat up a couple times. It's unfortunate. Whatever. With that off of there now, we can look into removing this from the intake. I'm not going to remove the fuel rail. There's no need to. Not until it's time to put this back on. It's better just to leave it all together, pull it out. So usually from what I've seen, 2 valves have a return style. This is returnless, so not really used to this, but that's okay. I have my set of fuel and line removers. Usually it's the green one. So you don't have to get this specific set. Harbor Freight does make some aluminum ones that work pretty well. You just put it over the line here, push up. There's a little spring that holds this in place, and just slide the line right off. So if it is a return style, it's usually the green is the feed. So green feed, red is return, and you would use both of those. Okay. Another thing you want to be aware of and kind of plan ahead, look at the piece that you're about to remove. Look for things like this. That is attached to the intake, so we're going to have to remove it. Just little things like this. You'll find them all over the place, and if you can catch them early, it'll save you some headaches with removing some of this stuff. So take that off there. Looks like it's connected here too. Okay. I don't know what's going on down here. That's interesting. Another thing you'll learn is feeling with your fingers to get the visual of what a piece looks like behind an engine or whatever piece you're working on. Feels like there's a little bracket back here. I think just on the one side, but that is going to have to be removed, I believe. I might be able to just slide this, honestly. Look at that. Found another weatherproofing for this. And push that back in there. There we go. One thing I'm going to do to get this wiring out of the way, you have to remove these 2 nuts up here to get these off. These are usually 15s. Okay. There are connectors here, but it is far easier just to remove this nut, pull it off, then you don't have to worry about it, because these have a tendency to break. It's best just to leave them alone. So the valve cover bolts have a little piece that comes up, and these go over top of them. That's what holds it in place on the side. Sometimes they get rusty and a little bit difficult to take off, but these don't look too bad, so I'm see if I can get them off without ruining them too bad. Oh, come on now. That one. Okay. That. Yes, multi-purpose tool. It's a needle nose and also a pry bar. Just don't tell Snap-on I said that. Oh wait, I don't buy tools from them anymore. Slip this over the oil cap here. And there's going to be quite a few 10mm bolts going along. They're all the same size except for these two, because it goes through this elbow here for the coolant and goes all the way through this thick piece of aluminum. Oh boy, that's tight. If you can't get it right away with a power tool, use a hand tool. Break it loose. Be careful not to pinch yourself when you're turning. Okay. Actually, these are pretty tight, so I'm just going to go through the whole thing and break them loose. I did work on a Explorer once that had a 4.6, and these bolts right here were very, very rusty. Worst one I've ever seen, and it took an easy out to get that out. So there is another bolt back there. It is underneath that bracket. You must remove the bracket that goes to the back of the head to get to that bolt. So that's what I'm going to do now. It felt like a 13, so let's see if I'm right. And that's not going to work. So I'm going to use our ratcheting wrench here. Okay. And it was a 13. Now, I'm curious how many of you actually put this bracket back. Let me know in a comment below. Wow, that's a excessively long bolt. Such a little bracket. So, what do you think? That long of a bolt for this bracket that looks like it would hold down a wire harness. Do you think it should be there? That. And one more way back here. Okay. So I'm gonna get this hose off of here. This is going to your heater core. Alright. Got it up. See if we can pull it off of here. Hey, look at that. Okay. I'm going to remove this dipstick here because it's very easy to break that when removing an engine. Gonna do the same thing with the oil dipstick. Alright. That in there. Last bolt to loosen. Perfect. Alright, now we have them all loose. Now we can use our power tool. Alright, there's our long bolts versus our shorter ones. Get these all out of here. I'm going to take this off. You don't need to smack this thing real hard. Just light taps. Just like that. Okay. What I've seen a lot of people do is they remove all of the injectors and the coils. You don't need to do that. Just take this thing, pop it up. We did have one boot come off, but they look like they need to be replaced anyway. I'm just gonna pop that right back on there, but I mean, that's so much easier than trying to pop every single one of these things out. So now that we have that all loose, gonna get that out of here. Pop off our gaskets here. We have one more heater core line here, so we'll get this off real quick. Since this one's back in here quite far, I'm going to take a pick here and go along the back side of this hose. Try to break it loose. Also try not to stab yourself. Right. That. Now we have a couple connectors going to the transmission here that we need to get off. I'm actually surprised there's not a knock sensor in the valley. I wonder if there's a knock sensor on the side of the block. Looks like there's a wire harness connector. It's on the back side here. Instead of trying to remove it from the head, I'm going to try to remove this connector from the plastic piece that goes onto the head. To do that, on the bottom side, just pry it down a little bit. And it just slides off of there. Just like that. Normally on the F-150s, you can, on one of these bolts back here, I believe it's the driver's side bolt, you can get that out from the top. This one looks like you would have to remove the electrical, you would have to move the wires from this bracket to be able to get it. I'm going to attempt it, but I don't know that I can necessarily get it out the way I'm used to. So I removed both of the wires, and it looks like I have enough room to actually get back there. The size of these bolts is a 13 millimeter. So wow, that was tight. Once you get them started, they're usually free for the most part. I don't think I've ever really seen a bell housing bolt fused into the block. Not saying it can't happen, just saying that I haven't really seen it, at least with these engines. Alright, bell housing bolt out. Let's try to get the other one that's up here out. Wow. Okay. That one sure was tight. Holy cow. No, a wrench got stuck. That's alright. See if I can't get it off of there. So, all I did there was, it was up against the bolt. I took my pry bar, pushed it right off the bolt. That's what you end up with working on cars. Set your hand or arm in that right there, and it's going right to your bare skin. That's alright. Never expect to be clean doing this. Man, after fighting with that thing, here it is. Whew. Okay. Try to get the connector back up that I pushed down. I want to crush it when it's time to remove this. Now we're moving on to power steering. 10mm bolts here. One right on the side, up on the front. Okay. Reservoir is off. And it looks like we have a 13mm bolt here, 13mm down here for, I believe, they're nuts. So, that. And they are indeed nuts. It's usually the forward way on these modular engines. They like putting studs up here on their bolts. So the bracket for the wire harness. And then the bracket for the power steering pump, or power steering reservoir. And just to get this out of the way, I'm going to take the alternator, move it over here, and I'm going to put the power steering reservoir underneath these cables. That way I don't have to worry about it too much. I'm going to put the alternator right beside it. Okay. Try to get the wire harness out of the way. Okay. So, power steering pump. There's usually 3 10mm bolts. Oh, they put 4 on this one. Great. On the trucks, they put 3. And I definitely like that they put 3 and not 4. Sometimes they like putting one of the bolts behind a power steering line. Not real sure why they did that, but whatever. And actually, it looks like you can get to the power steering pump from the bottom. The trucks you can't. Trucks are very, very hard to get the power steering pump off from the bottom, so it's usually better to do it from the top. That's why I'm doing it this way. All right, first one out. 3 more to go. Yep. There's 2. And then I drop it. Whatever. I'll get that once I go underneath. The other 2 bolts that are underneath here, I'm going to lift this thing up. It's open on the bottom. I'm just going to get them from the bottom. So these are normally the tools I take when I go underneath one of these vehicles with a modular. A couple different extensions, my ratchet, flathead, swivel socket, light, long extension, 2 impacts, swivel sockets, standard socket set. This is a serpentine belt tool. You'll see why I will bring that under there. It is absolutely great for torque converter nuts on these things. So, power steering pump down here. We have a bolt here and a bolt behind this line. I have never taken this line off to get this bolt. Granted, there's a bracket here, and I don't plan to start taking this line off to get this bolt out. So I'm gonna find a way to get that out of there. And underneath here, I like using air tools. Just makes things go a little bit quicker. Okay. And sorry about the camera moving so much. It is on my head. It's the only way I can think of to effectively show you what I'm doing down here. So, looks like we have an 8mm. Okay. Trying to set up my light so I don't have to hold it. Okay. Let's see if we can't get this bracket off of here. Let's see if I can do this. Alright, looks like it's starting to come off. Okay. Bracket out of the way. Now I can get to this 10mm bolt right there. Okay. One thing I'm probably gonna do is I am going to remove this whole bracket piece right here. These look like 13s. Okay. Come on now. There's that. Alright, let's see if I can get the swing I need now. Oh my goodness. Well, looks like I'm gonna have to put some sort of extension on here to turn it. And the way to do that, just take a wrench that's similar size. If you need to go this way, put it in there like that. This way, put it in there like that. There are actual tools for extending your wrench, but guess what? I don't have them. And I don't plan on buying them either, so. And there we go. It's loose. Only thing now is get it out. Which, this does take a little bit of time. So, a little bit of patience and persistence, and you'll get this out of here. Alright. Power steering pump off. Of course, the bolt won't come out. That's okay. Just set it out of the way. It's off the engine. That's all we care about. Okay. I don't have to worry about that. If it was sitting up here, like the normal trucks, then I would have to worry about it. But here, I don't think I will. So. Grab my light here. I do have to take this off. Ooh, crusty. Oh, come on now. Yep. Right. Get this off of here. Just like that. Alright, now I have to get our crank position sensor unplugged. Get some light on here. And these can be quite sandy, so you may have to push it up, push this in, and then pull it off. Okay, crank position sensor off. The AC compressor, normally they're 10mm bolts. On here, looks like they're 13s. So, and usually there's only 3 on every application. Okay, there's 1. 2. And 3. Okay, AC compressor off. And I don't think this line may be a little bit difficult to actually work around, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to pull that apart. If you did have to pull it apart, you will have to drain your AC lines. You don't want to just let it go off into the atmosphere. One, it's against the law. Two, it's kind of a waste. You want some sort of recycler where it pulls it in and then you can reuse it. Which you can ask any shop to pull out the Freon for you. But since this has a hole in it, if I do have to take it apart, I won't have to worry about taking Freon out of these lines. Okay, so you do want to be aware of this little bracket here. Holds your AC lines to your block. Normally they're not held on with the bolt for the motor mount, but in this case they are. So if I can reach up in there, it's my tool. It's a 15. Okay, try this again. Okay. With the nut off, you can pull that off of there like that. And it looks like it's also used to hold down the wire harness. So the wire harness can come off as well. Right. Now we shouldn't have to worry about that. The motor mount nut right here looks like it's on the bottom side here. Ford was nice enough to actually put a hole through here so you can get that off of there, which we'll get to that later. That's probably going to be one of the last things we do. Okay. Hope you can see this fairly well. But the thing I'm going to do here, that looks quite oily. So I'm going to pull this little plug out of here. If I can. There we go. There we go. Okay. Torque converter. It's a little bit different on this. Huh. Okay. This is different as well. Comparing this to F-150s. Okay, so this does have a block heater, which we need to unplug. Okay. This is quite oily under here. So I'm guessing there's a rear main seal that's leaking. Normally, from what I'm used to, there are only two 13 millimeters back here, but that's okay. Okay. Next, this one. If I can get it on there. Alright, do the same thing on the other side. Boy. Wow. That starter is going to be a pain. Because the way they put these bolts, there's one here, one above the solenoid, and then one above the starter itself. Oh, that's gonna be a bear. Okay. Okay, looks like there's only one 13mm on this side for the torque converter cover. Get the light back up in here so you can see it. Come on. You can do it. Let's go. Hey there, it just got looser. Oh, don't do that. Don't you hate it when bolts, you start taking them out, it's loose, it's loose, it's loose, then all of a sudden it gets tight. It's like, ah, come on, man. Anyway, there's the cover. We can see our flex plate up in there. I was told initially that the flex plate was cracked, but based off of the noise from the other video, I don't think it's a cracked flex plate, honestly. So, okay. Oh, that is gonna be such a bear. Wow. Yeah, with these starters, there's not much I can show you, because even on the trucks with more clearance for hands, it's all working blind. So, yay. Yeah, I think this is going to be the worst part about removing the engine on this Mustang, is the starter. Just because of how tight it is in here. This isn't even the hard bolt, this is the easy one. I was using my 3/8. My 1/4 inch is doing much better up in here. So there's first bolt, other two. Oh, that's all I have to say. It's just So, just to show you what I did here, I'm at the front of the engine. This is a 2 or 3 foot extension going all the way back to the starter. I was able to get onto the second bolt just above the solenoid, and this ratchet's a little bit small for this, but I'm gonna be working at it here. I'm trying to get this thing to turn. Oh my goodness. Whew. I'm gonna need something with a little more leverage. These 1/4 inch adapters break really easy. So if this thing snaps on me, my hands are gonna go probably into the oil pan or into this right here. So try not to push like this. Try to push open-handed. That way you don't skin up your knuckles, and this is a little bit tougher skin. And hopefully it doesn't break the skin. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is tight. Oh. Holy cow, I actually got it. And I didn't break anything. Oh. Okay. I'll take it. Remember, take the wins. Whoops. Uh-oh. Bolt's out. Uh-oh. I need my tool. Oh, there it is right there. So this is what I'm using. It's a 1/4 inch socket with a swivel socket. This long extension with an adapter going to 3/8. I'm curious if I can get the top bolt this way. We'll see.
All right, it's the second day of pulling the engine on this. As you saw, the starter and everything underneath, it is really, really tight in there. I can barely fit my hand up in there to get that last bolt on that starter. So I'm going to take a different approach today. I think I'm going to remove the entire cross brace that goes in there to try to get more room. We'll see if that works. I'm hopeful it will. So we'll see. Let's jump right into it.
All right, the cross brace I'm looking at is this right here. Gonna remove this. Hopefully it gives me enough room to get my hand up in here. Since this is the bottom, these are going to be very difficult to remove, or at least I expect they will be, just based off of the rust down here. So I'm gonna do my best to not break these bolts or these little clips that hold them in place. Yummy. Rust. I needed iron for today. No, not actually. Ooh, look at that. Rusty. Oh, good old. Well, this came from Iowa. I don't know what the title was before that. Whatever. I'm guessing this came from the Salt Belt. I really need to look into getting a hoist. These back ones, these are gonna be interesting because this is quite rusty. Looks like there's a single bolt here and then a smaller one right there. Looks like the rust has gotten to it, so it's probably gonna be initially a bigger size, and then who knows, it may be a 12 instead of a 13. Oh, come on now. Okay. Grab our hammer. See if we can't pound this thing on here. Oh. There we go. Not gonna get much better than that. This one, I'm expecting to break. Oh, come on. Doing actually pretty well. Look at that. Wow, okay. Okay, you probably saw me take it out a little bit, push it back in, take it out again, push it back some, take it out. That's just to try to get the rust off here, clean it out. When you're doing that, of course, the bolt's gonna get hot, so try not to burn your fingers. So I'm gonna get this one out here. Looks like a 10. All right, get the crusty rust off. Oof. That one's probably gonna break. Yep, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just drill that out, put some new threads, new bolt. That's fine. So part of the reason I don't like using rust penetrant is it doesn't, from what I've seen, when I'm trying to get this out of here right now, it doesn't get into those threads. So it doesn't help me. The only thing that I've ever seen help with rust and trying to break these things loose is heat. So but it's fine. If it breaks, we'll just drill it out. Yeah, expected. Looks like we got another bolt right here. And of course it's behind this plastic thing. Looks like the inner fender well. Yay. Okay. Don't really want to take the inner fender well out. So I'm just going to try to get this slide in there. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. And breakage, most likely. Yep, got tight. Yep, broke. Expected. Get on there. Yeah. Okay. Rusty crusty. Got the weight reduction going here. Should be enough. Perfect. In behind the fender well. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Alright. As soon as I get this out of here, this is gonna come crashing down in my face. So be prepared. Probably gonna put a leg up there. Okay. Broke. Expected. Haha. Okay. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Look at there. Surprise, surprise. Got a hidden bolt. Okay, fine. Sure. Alright, I removed those plastic rivets here. I was able to swing this down, and I was able to get that bolt right there. That was the last one. So, whole thing came down. I removed it. So, let's see. Let's see if I have enough room to actually get up in here. Let me grab a light and show you what I'm looking at. Alright. There's a starter up here. So we got the one bolt last night and the one right above it. There's one on the other side. I'm gonna try to fit my hands up in here. I don't know how well that's gonna go. Hoping for the best. If I have to, I'll try to do like on the Dodge Sprinters, the ones with the 5-cylinder Mercedes diesel, the torque converter bolts on them. The easiest way to get to them is remove the motor mounts, lift the engine up, and then you can get over the frame with a long extension, and I believe it's an inverted torque socket, and you can get all the bolts out. I might try that here for the starter bolt, only if I can't get it going up through this way. That's going to be a last resort thing, so hopefully this works. So I'm going to try a 6-inch extension first. Oh, there's my extension that I was looking for, this 1/4 inch. I left it in the car. Okay. All right. Oh, smashed in the face with that thing. Whatever. So this is what I used last night to get the middle one. Worked pretty well. Thought I was gonna break a socket, but whatever. Okay, let's see if I can do this. This is okay. Stuff out of my way. I did remove the starter wires to allow more room as well. That was something I did last night. Oh goodness. Oh boy. Okay. Oh, working blind. It's things like this where it's like, you can't see what you're doing. So you just kind of have to get a sight for it with your hands. And oh, okay. Thing is, can I feel the bolt? Oh my goodness. Wow, that's tight. Oh, my hands are gonna get stuck in here. Is that it there? Maybe. I don't know. Let's give it a try. See what happens. Oh, ow, ow. Okay. Well, I have some resistance, so that's a good thing. Ouch. Holy cow. I believe. Ouch, 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 ouch. Oh. I believe I have it started. The issue I'm running into here is I can't really find a good way to hold the ratchet in place and be able to turn this. Granted, it's kind of like that on the trucks, but this is way worse. I don't even know if that's on the bolt still. I mean, the starter's loose. That means a good thing, right? I don't know. Well, hope for the best. So the same thing, I'm running into the same thing that I did on the trucks. Using a 6-inch extension with a short socket and my ratchet, I'm hitting where the motor mount sits. You kind of have to make sure that you don't get your ratchet stuck. Just a little bit of a trick. Sometimes a swivel socket is better for this, but looks like I'm able to move it just enough to not get it stuck. Well, looks like, feels like, since I can't see anything that I'm doing. Oh, I feel. I'll show this to you here. The starter is loose, but the bolt is not all the way out. So, reach my hand up in there if I can. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay. I can feel the bolt. Problem is, I can't hardly touch it. Oh, okay. Let's try 1/4 inch 6-inch extension with a shorty. This one kind of has a swivel to it. It's got a little bit of a swivel end. Gonna try to fit this up in there and see what I can do. Okay, go. Ah, goodness gracious. Not sure why they designed it like this. Oh, this is a problem. Once you get your socket off, man, is it a bear to get it back on. Oh. Holy cow. Wow. Okay. Can feel the socket. There's the bolt there. Oh, did I get it on there? I did. Of course, and I can't turn it. Yay. Okay. Great. That's great. Okay. Get it off of there. Oh, goodness. I don't think that's gonna work. Maybe swivel with a 6-inch extension. Think that'll work? I'm gonna try it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay. Get my hands up in here. Woo. So, if you stick your hand up in here, watch this corner. That is painful. Digs right into your arm. Okay. Let's see. There's the bolt there. Socket. Socket's on. Okay. Now, just have to get the ratchet on there. Okay. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Oh. So I'm holding on to the extension, turning my 1/4-inch ratchet. Oh, I don't know how I'm gonna get this bolt back in. I know a lot of guys don't put this bolt in just because of the bear that it is. But I'm gonna try. I'll definitely try to get it in there. Not gonna guarantee anything with this though. So such tight areas. Oh, did I get it? Get it? The starter moved on me. Let's see. Oh. I heard the jingle of a bolt came out. Try not to pinch fingers. Okay, move the transmission lines over a bit, and yes, look at that. Holy cow. We got the starter out. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. One of the difficult parts finished. So, now we can see our exhaust manifold a little better. Oh, that's gonna be rough. Hopefully I can get something up in here. We'll see. Okay. Looking at the rest of this, I don't see anything on the motor that would prevent us from removing it. Did remove the block heater, which I needed to get it off the pan here. That is not going back on. Not needed. Not for a gasoline engine anyway. Maybe for up in Canada, Alaska areas, but oh no, this is probably not going to be a winter car, so I'm just going to remove this entire thing. I do see a ground strap right there. Not sure if you can see that. It's connected to the motor mount. Okay, so last few things we had to do: motor mount, ground strap. I don't see a knock sensor, which is very strange. Exhaust, bell housing bolts, torque converter nuts, and motor mount nuts as well. This thing should be able to come out of here free and clear, but we'll see what I forgot when we pull it. So I'm gonna use this. I know it's a chromie. I'm not sure what happened to my impact rated one, but honestly, I have never had a chromie socket extension ever break on me with using an impact. If you have, let me know. Leave it in a comment. But yeah, have my swivel socket on here. Hopefully this makes a difference. We shall see. It looks like it is a deep enough socket. Alright, here we go. And that worked. As you can see up in there, nut is off. Get that off of there. There we go. Okay. This one's going to be interesting. I don't like that angle, but let's see. Let's see. Nope. Great. My swivel here. I don't have any more. I don't have the knuckles that you normally see anymore, just because I would always break them. Does anybody else have that problem? Or is it just me that I'd always break those little knuckle things? That's why I switched to these. But I'm not sure how I'm gonna get this thing to fit. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh. This side is definitely the more difficult side on these Mustangs. Guaranteed. Yeah, let's see. I mean, I could use the MAP gas torch. Try to heat it up a bit. I don't have acetylene. Otherwise, I'd use acetylene to try to heat that up. I'm gonna try MAP gas. Try to heat this thing up, and hopefully that will provide me with enough. Hopefully it'll break up that rust and allow me to get that out of there. Alright, got my MAP gas torch. I'm going to apply a little bit of heat to this nut. Alright, and also try not to burn up anything plastic. Here we go. Alright, work quickly here before it cools off too much. Alright. Get my socket up in there. Okay, that's about the best I can do. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm thinking if I had that knuckle, I'd probably be able to get it out of here. I don't want to get the knuckle just for this. The two options that I'm thinking of now, sad thing is that nut is not bad. Ugh. I have cut these things off before. You just go along the side there and cut it to the point where the nut becomes loose, or an air hammer with a chisel bit and knock that nut, basically put a, I guess, incision, if you will, or like a cut, split the nut on one side and then it like expands and then you can get it out of there. I'll try to get a cutoff wheel in here and see if I can cut that out of there. I'm not sure I'll show that on camera, just because sparks go flying and I don't want to ruin my camera. But I'll show you after results. Alright guys, I broke down and bought a acetylene torch. I know it doesn't look pretty up there, but that was me cutting it off, and took an air hammer and got off all the slag, so now it's free. You know, I just got tired of monkey farting around, so that's what I did. And honestly, I'm not going to reuse these manifolds because this is meant for a 4.6. I'm putting a 5.4 in here, so I gotta come up with something else. So I didn't care if, I'm not gonna save these, basically. So let's get the rest of this unbolted and get this thing out of here. So, okay. So, plan is to remove these two nuts here, They look fine. They should just be able to come off with this and a swivel 15 with a 1/2 inch impact. So, gonna get those off quick. Try to get that square on the nut there. Alright, off it comes. There it is. And at least on this side, if I can get that off of there. Come on now. Okay. Tired of fighting that thing. It should just be able to pop off once I lift the engine out of here. The easiest way that we're going to be able to do this is there's a hole right here. And that comes up under right above this control arm. I'm going to try to fit a swivel socket in there with an extension and try to get my impact up in there. See if I can do it. Alright. So 21 fits. Time to get my impact on there. There's just enough room to fit that in there. Okay. That one's out. Same thing to the other side. This up in here. Put it on there. Oh, I'm gonna have to turn the wheel. So where it is currently, I'm not gonna be able to fit my impact in here, so I need to get this wheel turned. Alright, now that I have room, lift this up, have it in there. There it is. Okay. Beautiful. And my battery's dying and my snap-on light. Gonna have to replace the battery soon. But now that that's all good. Oh yeah, that's right. I still have a ground strap on the driver's side. Right there. So, that looks like a 13. So, 13 millimeter. Oh, not a 13. Okay. Might be a 15. So let's try the 15 here. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Whew, that's warm. Okay. That's fine. Okay, ground strap off there. See a ground strap here. I see another ground strap here, and it looks like there is another one right here. So I'll get that off quick. Okay. I left the key in the ignition, so I should just be able to move the wheel. Okay. Watch out for falling extensions. Don't want to knock out any teeth. Okay. Get my extension up in there. Come on now. Oof, that looks rusty. And that looks rusty. Okay. Let's try to fit it up in behind. Tie rod boot. Okay. Not gonna work that way. Let's try extension up this way. Put it on the other side. And there we go. It feels fairly square on there. You know what? That's okay. We will replace that ground strap. That's fairly common for that to happen. I mean, that is rough looking. As you can see there, doesn't surprise me that that happened. Yep, we'll replace it. Put it on the to-do list. Get my sockets and adapters out of there. Right. Now we can move on to torque converter nuts. Ford likes using torque converter nuts instead of bolts. Some people don't like them because it's hard to get this flywheel lined up with the torque converter. But I don't find an issue with it as long as you get it lined up at the top, which we'll go through that once I put the 5.4 back in here. Okay, this tool here is specifically meant for belt tensioners, like serpentine belt tensioners, but it works really well for in here. It's the perfect distance to get in there. And as you can see, once I get it on there, it's going to hit this plate and not go up in there, so I don't need to hold it at all. So I like this tool specifically for this just because of how it functions in here. This is a 14 millimeter. If this was an F-150, the torque converter would actually be closer to this hole here, and you could use a flathead to turn it, the whole crank. But being that this one's a little bit deeper in here, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a 19 millimeter on the front of the crank and turn it over. So let's get this thing off of here. Okay. Now that it's up against the plate here. Okay. Get that off of there. So let's turn this thing over. All right. That front bolt is an 18. So in here, man, this is hard to turn. Now that we can see the next one, and we're going to be turning this direction, you want it close to the edge here. Well, looks like we got one boogered up pretty bad here. So, I'm going to get this thing lined up as best I can. There it is there. And I'm gonna have to take a pry bar and come in here, see if I can't get this on here a little better. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Alright, see if that did it enough to where I can get it off of here. Ow. These are really tight on here. Right. Now, a way to check to see if you have all the nuts off. If you stick a finger or thumb in here, move the torque converter back and forth, and if you can see those studs move, that means there are no more nuts left. So, the only thing that should be left on here are bell housing bolts. Okay, with these bell housing bolts, at least with the F-150s, I would use a really long 3/8 extension, not sure if you can see this, with a swivel 13 and a 3/8 to half adapter going to my 1/2 inch impact. There's going to be 2 bolts on the passenger side that we have to get since we got the top 2 out, and then 3 bolts on the driver's side. So 7 bolts in total for bell housing bolts. Let's see if this same extension and swivel can get out the bell housing bolts on this Mustang. So, not sure if you can see this, but there's a little tube up there, and this bolt goes to a bracket on that tube. So when you go to put this back in, be sure to put it through that bracket. Okay, what I did for this bolt going to this bracket, I have a swivel connected to a swivel. Alright, I got it loose. Took a breaker bar. My impact was just not doing it. But it's loose now. So let's get this out of here. I think it's good enough to get out of there. Let's see if I am correct. If I can get my hand up in there. Which I don't know that I can. Alright. Couldn't get my hand up in there, so let's try a magnet. If I can get this thing to stop grabbing everything along the way. Hey, look at that. Sweet. Got that bolt out. It's probably going to be the hardest one on this thing. The next one is going to be right there. So, we'll see. This one might be hard too. Yeah. All right. Same tool combination. Breaker bar. Was the only way I could get it out. That thing is barely on there. But it is slowly coming out. The other 3 are right here. I'm gonna do these off camera just because my memory card is getting full. So straightforward, nothing in the way. So I'm gonna get these out of here real quick and show you the process of removing it with the cherry picker.
All right, it is now dark outside, so that's why the lighting is the way it is. This light you see right here is from my garage, but all the bolts are loose. I have it back on the ground. I'm going to take my jack, have a piece of 2x4 here. I'm going to stick this underneath the transmission pan towards the front and lift up on it. Start lifting up on it. So we're gonna watch the engine and see if it comes up. We are taking a load off of the suspensions. It's okay that the car is coming up with it because of that, since weight is being taken off of it. All right, I just looked at the engine, and it is actually separating from the transmission, just like we want, and it is starting to come up a little bit. I'm going to lift on this just a little bit more. All right, let's go take a look. Get my under hood light on here, or as I like to call it, my lightsaber. All right. Now that we got some light on the subject, we can move it around, and that's just what we want. We can see a little bit of separation at the top of the bell housing. Again, what we want. I grabbed a drain pan. I'm going to stick it right underneath this hose right here that goes to the bottom of the radiator. Because as soon as this thing lets go, coolant's going to start coming out of that hose. So set that underneath there. Take a pry bar, and we're just going to put it right there. And get my lightsaber out of the way. All right. Now that I got it in there, put it in the top of the bell housing and just pull towards you. Okay. That's what we wanted right there. It is fully separate from the transmission now. So I'm going to go get a chain, put it on our intake bolts here. I like doing this one and this one. It picks it up fairly well. So let me go grab that chain. All right, have our chain here, and I found some bolts that we can use. So just going to take our chain, put it down like that. And this side, tighten down our bolts here. Okay. It's 1, 2, and this is all the slack you need. No more than that. Because if you have too much, then you'll be hitting your hood. Granted, we might anyway, but this is perfect for what we need. All right, got my cherry picker here. Remove our drain pan a little bit so I can get it on. All right. Should be good right there. Wow, the nose of a Mustang is really long. It's okay. So now that we have it looped around our hook, I'm going to pick it up right from the middle. Well, now we get to see what wires and stuff we missed. So, get up here a little bit, move it back. I think it's still hanging up on that exhaust. I'm going to shake it a little bit. Move your wiring harness here past the engine. Doesn't help with this cold weather. Makes it difficult to actually bend this. Okay. Go in on the other side, do the same thing for this harness. Try and get it as far back as you can. Okay. Can try to pull it towards us. Lift a little bit. I see our coolant hose on the bottom is hanging up on some stuff. So I'm going to try to pull it up here. Okay. I'll lift a little bit more. Need to be a little bit careful. I'm hitting the level sensor on the brake reservoir. Gonna try to pull it over this way some. And something I didn't realize. Okay. We have to get this harness over this EGR tube. So I'm gonna lower it back down, see if I can't stretch it, pull it this way some and over. Ooh, that did not want to go down at all. Okay. So get our wiring harness back this way. See if we can't pull this up. All right. Stretch it over there. All right. Is now over our EGR tube. Get the harness back down to where it's out of the way, hopefully. All right. Let's try lifting on this thing again. Okay. Pull up our coolant hose here. Pull towards us. Lift up some more. And we're getting caught on the wires here. So I'll move the wires back. It's looking pretty good. Keep lifting up. Move the coolant hose up. Pull the engine towards us. And it's always a fairly good idea. Look around the engine, see if you see anything that's connected to it. I don't see anything, so I'm going to keep lifting.
All right, I'm hitting my light. I'll take the light off. I'm also going to see if I can't open this hood a little bit farther. I'm going to use a pry bar here to hopefully hold it open. Okay, that should be good. All right, now that we have it lifted up high enough, let's get it in the garage. Now that we got the engine out and in the garage, I'm going to call it a night. It's dark and it's very cold since it's dark. I'm quite curious what's actually wrong with this engine, and I'm excited to take apart to try to figure out what's going on. But I'm going to save that for the next one. This one's long enough the way it is. But if you like this content, let me know. Give me a like and maybe subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in a comment below. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, time to clean up.